Yes, my dear students. So now we will study about fertilization in a flower. How does fertilization takes place? First and foremost, remember this thing that if someone asks you that what do you mean by fertilization, just tell that it is the fusion of male and female gametes in a flower. Okay, I think you must have been hearing a lot about gametes. By the way, what are gametes? Right? These gametes are nothing but they are certain cells, you can say, which help in reproduction and forming a new life. These gametes are present in human beings and animals also. So what are they? These gametes are certain cells which are certain, like you can say, basic unit of life which help in reproduction and forming a new life. Now when these gametes are of two types, male gametes and female gametes. Okay, so when the male and the female, they combine together, fusion means what? Combine together. Okay, this leads to fertilization. Understood? The fusion of male gametes and female gametes, when they combine, that is known as fertilization, and thus we get different fruits, plants, you can say in human beings, baby. Okay, so this is what is all about fertilization. Now we are going to see that how do the fertilization take place in plants. I shall erase all the ink. Now just observe. Suppose, let me say that this is one. Let me draw it in this way. Okay, and these are the green sepals, green color, right? This is the, from here you have the male gametes, this is the filament, and this is the anther, filament, and this is the anther, filament, and anther. This one is stigma. This part, this long part, is the style, and this is the ovary. Inside these ovary, small ovules are present, which are the female gametes. Understood? Female gametes in a flower. And then you can just let me give a different color to the petals. These are the petals, these are the petals. Okay, so what we can see is that if we have to draw it in a different way, that this is actually the complete female part. Stigma is always the sticky part of the flower. Then comes a long slender portion. This entire is the style, and this is round swollen portion. At the bottom is the ovary, and here you have small ovules. Fine. And what is the male part of the flower? This is the filament, and here this is the anther. Inside the anther, small dust particle like structures are present, which is called the pollen grains. Understood? This is the male part of the flower, which is called the androecium. Female part of the flower, which is called gynoecium, or it is also called as carpel, or it is also called as pistil. Okay. This male part, it's called as androecium also, or it is also called as stamen. Okay, so if someone asks you what is a stamen, you can say that this is the male part of the flower, which consists of this filament and anther, and inside the anther we have small dust particles called the pollen grain. And in terms of if someone asks you that, okay, tell me what does gynoecium mean, or what is a carpel, or what is a pistil? Okay, so you say that this is the female part of the flower, which consists of stigma, style and ovary, and also the ovules. Fine, I hope it is clear till this much. So what happens is that in terms of pollination, when we say that pollination has taken place, then let me take a different ink now. Pollination, what happens is that in this, suppose this is one flower and this is another flower. Okay. So what is going to happen? We know pollination is a process of transfer of pollen grains from the male gamete. So here all the dust particles are here. When these pollen grains, they travel and sit on the stigma of another flower. Okay. I told you, I explained you all before that this is the stigma of the flower. Okay, so when this anther pollen grains, the pollen grains from this anther will come and sit here by the help of some bees or insects like that. They'll come and sit here on the stigma. Fine, it has now sat on the stigma. Then what will happen? This is what we are going to study. I shall erase the ink now. Fine. So, as I was saying, I'll draw it again. Now, I shall draw only the female portion. Okay. So, this is stigma, this is style, and this is ovary. And when you have this small tiny structures called as ovules. Okay. Now, let's see one by one. Please open your book, page number 14. Let's study line by line. See, mature pollen from an anther of a flower falls on the stigma of the same flower or another flower of the same kind by the aid of pollinating agents. So, I told you all that one, right? So, one anther comes and falls here. Either this can be by the help of self-pollination or cross-pollination. Now, each pollen grain on the stigma then sends out a tiny thread-like tube called a pollen tube. Now, when this pollen grain has sat on the stigma, this pollen grain is now going to send a tube called the pollen tube. This tube is called what? Pollen tube. Fine. The tube grows down through the style. So, you can see the tube is going down through this long slender style and reaches one of the ovules in the ovary. So, it reaches one of the ovules. You can see this tube has now come and reached one of the ovule. I told you this small tiny portions are ovules. Okay. This ovules in the ovary. In the ovary, the male cell in the pollen grain fuses with the female cell in the ovule. Okay. Now, whatever was present inside this pollen grain, it travels through this pollen tube and fuses with one of the cell present in the ovule. Understood? They are fusing. Male gamete is fusing with the female. This is female gamete. This one was the male gamete. Okay. So, they are fusing now. This in the ovary, the male cell in the pollen grain fuses with the female cell in the ovule. Understood? Male cell in the pollen grain fuses with the female cell in the ovule. Fine. This process is called fertilization. Now, this fusion of male gamete and female gamete is called as fertilization. Understood? In other words, fertilization can be defined as the fusion of male and female gametes of the flower. Understood? I told you same thing. The fusion of the gametes forms a single cell called the zygote. Now, when this male and the female gamete, they have fused, they will form a single cell, okay, called the zygote. Okay, this is called the zygote. And then what will happen? This zygote develops into a new plant later on. Before going to what happens with the zygote, let's see. The ovules that was present here, didn't I show you this small tiny ovules? See, all the male gametes that are present here are not going to fuse with all the ovules that are present. It will fuse with only one ovule, with one female gamete. What about the other ovules that are present? What is going to happen to them? These ovules will turn into seeds. You will see seeds inside a fruit. So these are the ovules turning into seeds, and the ovary forms the fruit. This ovary that is there, this ovary will form fruit. Okay. Then as a result, what will happen? The sepals and petals fall off. Do you remember I drew the flower in this way, and here we have the sepals, these are the petals. Okay, so as these structure, this female gametophyte or the gynoecium transforms into a complete fruit, these petals and these sepals, they will fall off, and this entire thing will form a fruit, maybe an orange, in this way. Okay, so this is how fertilization takes place. Okay, I was talking about the zygote. Now this zygote, which is being formed after the fusion of male and female gamete, this will later on develop into a new plant. Okay, the zygote will later on develop into a new plant. So this was all about your fertilization. Please rewatch this video again, and I have an animation to show you. Let's see what is this animation. See what is happening. Okay, one pollen grain comes and sits on the, fine, pollination has taken place on the stigma. Okay, see, one tube is coming and then fusing with the ovules that are present in the ovary. Fine. So please ignore this generative cell and something like that. See, these are the male gametes that are present in the ovule. Okay, fine. So they are zooming this picture and showing it in a bigger way. Ignore all these complicated terms. Just see, every fertilized ovule can develop into a seed. Fine, they are developing into a seed, and ovary, this one ovary develops into a fruit, and you can see at the fruit. Once again, you can see, watch this. Yes, it comes here. Okay, sends a long pollen tube into one of the ovules, and then this is the fusion. Fertilization has taken place. The fusion of male and female gametes together leads to fertilization. Fine. And then inside the cell, what is happening? Zygote formation is taking place. And then these ovules turns into seed. And what is going to happen? The ovary itself turns into a fruit, and then it develops into a, you can say, ripe fruit. Okay, so please go and watch this video once again. Okay, thank you.